The early morning sun had barely risen when Lily Chen tied her dark hair into a neat bun and slipped into her black uniform. The restaurant wouldn't open for hours, but she liked the quiet moments before everyone arrived. In the silence of the empty dining room, she could hear her own thoughts. "Morning, Lily," called out Jorge, the head chef, as he pushed through the swinging kitchen doors. His arrival marked the beginning of the day's hustle. "Morning," she replied with a small smile, straightening the silverware on table 12. "Ready for tonight?" Jorge groaned. The Richardson party. 40 people, all wanting their steaks cooked differently. He shook his head. "At least they tip well." Lily nodded, though they both knew the truth. The wealthy guests who filled the tables at the Montclair rarely noticed who brought their food. To them, waitstaff were like furniture, necessary but not worth acknowledging. For 6 years, Lily had worked at this upscale restaurant in downtown Manhattan, serving bankers, celebrities, and socialites. She knew their preferences by heart. Mr. Wilson, medium rare ribeye, no sauce. Mrs. Keller, dressing on the side, no onions. Dr. Patel, allergic to shellfish. She remembered everything about them. They remembered nothing about her. At 28, Lily had mastered the art of invisibility. She moved efficiently between tables, refilling water glasses before they were empty, clearing plates at the perfect moment. Her hands, with their short, practical nails, worked quickly and precisely. What none of the guests knew was how those same hands could transform when they touched piano keys. "You're here early again," said Rosa, the restaurant manager, walking in with a stack of menus. "Don't you ever sleep?" Lily shrugged. "I need the extra hours." Rosa's eyes softened. "You work too hard. Double shifts 3 days a week. What do you even do with your free time?" What would Rosa say if Lily told her the truth? That after her feet had ached from standing for 10 hours, after counting tips and catching the last subway home, she would visit a small music studio near her apartment in Queens. That she would pay $20 an hour to practice on their upright piano until midnight. That sometimes, when she closed her eyes and played, she could still hear her mother's voice saying, "Music lives in your bones, little one. Never forget that." "I just rest," Lily answered instead. "Watch TV sometimes." By 5 o'clock, the restaurant transformed. White tablecloths gleamed under crystal chandeliers. The bar sparkled with expensive bottles. And the diners arrived, women in designer dresses, men in tailored suits, all expecting perfection. Lily moved among them like a shadow, balancing 4 plates on one arm, remembering who wanted sparkling water and who preferred still. She smiled politely when acknowledged, which wasn't often. She didn't mind. The less they noticed her, the less they would see how tired she was. "Table 9 needs more bread," barked Tony, another server, as they passed in the service corridor. "Got it," Lily replied, already reaching for a fresh basket. The night progressed like any other, until she heard the piano. The Montclair had a baby grand piano near the bar where an older man named Henry played jazz standards 5 nights a week. Lily always found excuses to linger nearby when he played. Sometimes, if the restaurant wasn't too busy, she'd pause for just a moment, her eyes closed, letting the music wash over her. Henry nodded at her as she passed. He was one of the few people who seemed to see her as more than just a server. "Bach today," he commented quietly. She smiled. It was their small ritual. He would tell her what composer was on his mind, and somehow, she always knew exactly which piece. "Prelude in C major," she whispered, and he winked. Later, as the night wound down and the last customers lingered over dessert and coffee, Lily found herself near the piano again. Henry had finished his set and was gathering his sheet music. "One day," he said without looking up, "you're going to tell me why a girl who can identify any classical piece by ear is carrying trays instead of playing concerts." Lily tensed. "It's complicated. Always is." Henry stood, his old knees cracking. "But that piano isn't just for show when I'm not around. You should play sometime." Lily almost laughed at the thought. Play here, in front of these people? The idea was absurd. Yet as she watched Henry leave, something ached deep inside her. Her father had brought the upright piano home when she was 6 years old. It wasn't new. The finish was scratched and some keys stuck. But to Lily it was magical. Her mother, who had studied music back in Shanghai before immigrating to America, taught her to play. First simple melodies, then more complex pieces. By 12, Lily was playing Chopin. By 15, Rachmaninoff. "You have a gift," her mother would say, her voice filled with fierce pride. A gift that will open doors. Those doors had slammed shut when Lily's father died unexpectedly her senior year of high school. Medical bills piled up. The college fund vanished. The piano was sold to pay rent. Her mother took on extra cleaning jobs, her hands growing rough and cracked. Lily's acceptance letter to the music program at NYU became just another piece of paper. Next time, her mother had said, pressing the letter back into Lily's hands. This is just a detour. But detours sometimes became permanent roads. Her mother passed away 3 years ago, still believing that Lily would find her way back to music. Now, Lily played whenever she could afford the studio time, keeping a promise to a ghost. After her shift ended at midnight, Lily counted her tips, 163, not bad. Enough for groceries this week, with some left over for piano time. She changed out of her uniform in the cramped employee bathroom. Pulling on jeans and a worn sweater, "Night, Lily," called Jorge as she headed out the back door. The streets of Manhattan were never truly dark or quiet. Lily walked quickly to the subway, her backpack heavy with her uniform for tomorrow and a folder of sheet music. The late train was half empty. A teenager nodded along to music from oversized headphones. An older woman dozed in the corner seat. A man in a business suit stared blankly at his phone. None of them knew. None of them would ever guess. The music studio was in the basement of an old building in Queens. A faded sign read Harmony Hall, music lessons and practice rooms. The owner, an elderly Korean woman named Mrs. Park, recognized Lily immediately. "Room 3 is free," she said, taking Lily's $20 bill. "Till 2 a.m. if you want it." "Just an hour tonight," Lily replied. Tomorrow was another double shift. She needed some sleep. Room 3 was small, with soundproofed walls and a Yamaha upright that had seen better days. It wasn't the baby grand at the Montclair, but it was a piano. Lily set down her bag and flexed her fingers. The day's work had left them stiff. She rolled her shoulders, trying to release the tension. Then she sat down and began to play. First scales to warm up. Her fingers remembered even when her mind was too tired. Then Bach, the same prelude Henry had mentioned earlier. The simple flowing notes filled the small room. Lily closed her eyes, letting muscle memory take over. She moved on to Chopin, a nocturne her mother had loved. The music grew more complex, more emotional. Her hands stretched across octaves, coaxing feeling from each note. This was where she became herself again. Not Lily the waitress, invisible and efficient, but Lily the pianist, every emotion laid bare through music. For 50 minutes, she played without stopping, moving from piece to piece as her heart dictated. Sometimes she stumbled over difficult passages. Lack of practice time had consequences, but she pushed through. In her mind, she wasn't in a rented room with water stains on the ceiling. She was on a stage under lights with an audience hanging on each note. Only when Mrs. Park knocked gently on the door did Lily realize how much time had passed. "Beautiful," the older woman said. "As always," Lily smiled tiredly. "Thank you for letting me stay late sometimes." "Music needs to be played," Mrs. Park replied with a shrug. "Your hands were made for it." The walk to her apartment was short but felt longer at 1 in the morning. Lily climbed 4 flights of stairs to her tiny one-bedroom. The space was clean but sparse. A second-hand couch, a small table with 2 chairs, bookshelves made of crates. The only luxury was a keyboard on a stand by the window, nowhere near the quality of a real piano, but better than nothing. She was too tired to play more, but she ran her fingers over the plastic keys anyway. Tomorrow, no, today already, she would put her uniform back on. She would serve more people who didn't see her. She would smile and nod and be invisible again. But for now, with the memory of music still tingling in her fingertips, Lily could almost believe in possibilities. Almost hear her mother's voice again. Almost imagine a different life. She fell asleep still wearing her clothes, dreaming of pianos and applause and a path back to the person she might have been. 3 weeks had passed since Lily's late-night practice session. Spring had arrived in the city, bringing unpredictable weather and the promise of change. She'd picked up extra shifts at the Montclair, covering for a co-worker with the flu, which meant less time at the piano but more money in her savings account. The trade-off left her restless. "You look tired," Jorge commented as they prepped for the evening rush. The kitchen hummed with activity. Sous chef chopping vegetables, the pastry chef arranging delicate desserts, dishwashers already up to their elbows in suds. Lily stifled a yawn. Just busy. She didn't mention that she'd stayed at the studio until 3 a.m. the night before, working on a Beethoven sonata that kept slipping away from her. Some hungers couldn't be ignored, even when they cost sleep. Rosa burst through the kitchen doors, her usually calm demeanor replaced with obvious stress. Emergency staff meeting now. The kitchen staff exchanged confused glances. Emergency meetings usually meant someone was fired or health inspectors were coming. Neither was good news. What's happening? Lily asked as the waitstaff gathered near the bar. Outside the windows, rain started to fall, distorting the view of the busy Manhattan street. Rosa took a deep breath. Henry just called. He's in the hospital. A murmur ran through the group. Henry, the pianist, was as much a fixture at the Montclair as the crystal chandeliers. Is he okay? Asked Tony, broken wrist. He fell on the subway steps. Rosa rubbed her forehead. He'll be fine, but he can't play. Not tonight. Not for weeks. Under normal circumstances, this would be unfortunate but manageable. Tonight was different. The Montclair was hosting a private event for the New York Symphony Orchestra's major donors, wealthy patrons who expected nothing less than perfection. Live piano music wasn't just preferred, it was promised. Can't we hire another pianist? Jorge suggested. Rosa shook her head. On 4 hours' notice? For an event this important? The owner is freaking out. He's talking about piping and recorded classical music. Lily's heart thumped oddly. She could almost hear her mother's voice. Opportunity knocks unexpectedly. But the thought of playing for actual musicians, for people who knew the difference between good and extraordinary, made her palms sweat. We need solutions, people, Rosa continued. The Richardson party is in the private room, but this symphony crowd will have the main dining area. David and his wife are among them. David Green was the restaurant owner, rarely seen but always feared. Any ideas? The silence stretched uncomfortably. Lily's mouth went dry. Her voice, when it finally came, sounded distant to her own ears. I could play. Every head turned toward her. Rosa blinked. You play piano? Yes. It felt strange to say it out loud in this place where she was known only for carrying plates and taking orders. Like, happy birthday and chopsticks? Tony asked with a half smile. Lily squared her shoulders. Chopin, Rachmaninoff, Bach, Beethoven. I studied classical piano for 12 years. The skepticism on their faces stung but wasn't surprising. Why would they believe the quiet waitress with perpetually tired eyes could do anything remarkable? Rosa looked torn between desperation and doubt. You've never mentioned this before. You never asked. The words came out sharper than Lily intended. A moment passed, filled with the ambient noise of rain against windows and kitchen clatter. Then Rosa nodded once, decisively. Show me. Lily followed her to the baby grand in the corner. The piano gleamed under soft lighting, its lid propped open. Lily had looked at it hundreds of times, had listened to Henry play, had sometimes imagined her own hands on those keys. Now everyone was watching, waiting for her to fail. She sat down, adjusting the bench. The keys felt different than the studio's upright, more responsive with a lighter touch. She took a deep breath and began to play. She chose Bach's Prelude in C major, simple but elegant, the piece she played when nervous. The familiar notes floated through the restaurant. She kept her eyes on her hands, afraid to see the judgment on her colleagues' faces, but as the final notes faded, she forced herself to look up. Rosa's expression had transformed from doubt to something like wonder. Jorge was grinning broadly. Even Tony looked impressed. That was... Rosa searched for words. Where did you learn to play like that? My mother taught me. She studied at Shanghai Conservatory before coming to America. Lily's fingers remained on the keys, drawing comfort from their solidity. I almost went to music school. What happened? Jorge asked quietly. Lily shrugged. Life happened. Rosa checked her watch. The event starts at 7. That's 3 hours from now. Can you put together enough music to play during dinner? The question took Lily by surprise. She had expected to play a piece or two, just enough to convince them she could do it. Not an entire evening's performance, Yes, I think so. Her mind raced through her repertoire. I would need to practice a bit. Practice all you want. I'll get someone to cover your tables. Rosa squeezed her shoulder. You just saved us, Lily. As the staff dispersed to prepare for the evening, Lily remained at the piano, slightly dazed. She was being offered a chance she'd never expected. in front of people who might actually appreciate what they heard. Her fingers trembled slightly as she began to play again, working through the pieces she knew best. Jorge appeared beside her an hour later, placing a plate of food and a cup of tea on top of the piano. "You need to eat," he said firmly. "Can't play on an empty stomach." The small kindness nearly undid her. "Thank you. So all this time you've been a secret genius?" He leaned against the piano. "Why keep it quiet?" Lily paused her practice. "It's not something that comes up when you're refilling water glasses." She took a sip of the tea. "Besides, it's the past, a different life." Jorge studied her for a moment. "Doesn't look like the past to me. Looks very much like the present." He gestured toward her hands on the keys. "Those hands weren't made for carrying plates, Lily." She had no answer for that. By 6:30, Lily had retreated to the employee bathroom to change. She'd brought nothing suitable for performing. Her waitress uniform wouldn't do, and her street clothes were too casual. Rosa had solved the problem by lending Lily her own black dress, simple but elegant, with a modest neckline and sleeves that reached her elbows. Looking in the mirror, Lily hardly recognized herself. She never wore makeup to work, but tonight Rosa had insisted on a touch of lipstick and mascara. Her dark hair, usually tightly bound, was arranged in a softer style that framed her face. "You look like a real pianist," Rosa said, appearing behind her in the mirror. Lily smiled nervously. "I feel like I'm playing dress-up." "No," Rosa said firmly. "You're finally dressed for who you really are." 7 o'clock arrived with the sound of car doors slamming and the murmur of expensive conversations. The guests began to filter in. Men in tailored suits, women draped in jewelry that cost more than Lily earned in a year. Among them were renowned musicians, wealthy patrons of the arts, and critics whose reviews could make or break careers. Lily's stomach knotted as she saw David Green, the restaurant owner, greeting guests with his wife. He had no idea that his evening's entertainment was usually serving his favorite whiskey on the rocks with a twist of lemon. Rosa intercepted her as she hesitated near the kitchen. "Don't overthink this. Just play like you did earlier." "What if I mess up?" Lily whispered. "These people know music, really know it. Then they'll also know how good you are." Rosa straightened Lily's borrowed dress. "Now go sit at that piano like you belong there." The walk to the piano felt impossibly long. Conversations continued around her. No one paid attention to another black-dressed woman moving through the crowd. Lily took her seat, adjusted the bench, and placed her hands on the keys. For a moment, she froze. Doubt clouded her mind. What was she doing? Who was she to think she could perform for people who attended Carnegie Hall? She looked up and caught Rosa's encouraging nod from across the room. Beyond her, Jorge gave a thumbs up from the kitchen doorway. Lily closed her eyes, drew a deep breath, and began to play. The first notes of Debussy's Clair de Lune floated through the room. She played softly, the music intended as background for pre-dinner cocktails and conversation. But as the piece progressed, she noticed something strange. The conversations were quieting. People were turning toward the piano. She kept her focus on the keys, afraid that if she looked up, the spell would break. She transitioned smoothly into Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, one of her mother's favorites. The piece was melancholy but beautiful, like remembering something precious that had been lost. When she finished, the unexpected happened. Applause broke out. Not the polite acknowledgement she'd expected, but genuine appreciation. Lily looked up in surprise to see several guests watching her with interest. An older gentleman approached the piano. His bearing and the deference others showed him marked him as someone important. "That was beautifully played," he said. "Do you take requests?" Lily's mouth went dry. What would you like to hear?" Rachmaninoff's Prelude in G minor, if you know it. She did know it, had practiced it obsessively last year. It was challenging, passionate, exactly the kind of piece that showed what a pianist could really do. With a nod, she began to play again, her fingers flying across the keys in the dramatic opening chords. As she played, something shifted inside her. The nervousness faded, replaced by the pure joy of making music for people who understood it. This moment, these notes, this connection between artist and listener, this was what her mother had wanted for her. By the time dinner was served, Lily had drawn a small crowd around the piano. She played through the meal, sometimes noticed, sometimes not, but always with the certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. For one magical evening, she wasn't a waitress who happened to play piano. She was a pianist, period. And somewhere she thought her mother must be smiling. Time seemed to both stretch and compress as Lily played through the evening. The expensive wine flowed, plates of artfully arranged food came and went, and conversations ebbed and flowed around her music. She had settled into a rhythm, alternating between pieces she knew by heart and those she had practiced recently. Her fingers moved with growing confidence across the keys of the baby grand, an instrument far superior to the worn upright at the studio. Between pieces, she caught glimpses of the crowd. These were not the usual Montclair patrons who came for business dinners or anniversary celebrations. These were people who attended symphony performances and opera premieres, who could distinguish between a merely competent pianist and one with genuine artistry. Water? A voice startled her from her thoughts. Lily looked up to see Tony standing beside the piano with a glass. She realized her throat was dry from concentration. "Thank you," she said, taking a grateful sip. "Never would have guessed," he said, shaking his head. "All this time serving drinks and you can do this." Before she could respond, he was gone, called away by a guest requesting another bottle of champagne. Lily turned back to the piano, letting her fingers drift across the keys in the opening notes of a Schubert impromptu. The piece flowed naturally, requiring little conscious thought, allowing her mind to wander. What would her mother think, seeing her now? Playing in a beautiful restaurant for people who appreciated music instead of practicing alone in a rented room with water stains on the ceiling? For a moment, Lily could almost feel her presence, the gentle correction of a finger position, the proud smile when a difficult passage was mastered. As the piece ended, Lily noticed a woman approaching the piano. Tall and elegant, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a severe bun, she carried herself with unmistakable authority. Something about her seemed familiar, though Lily couldn't place why. "That was Schubert's impromptu in G-flat major," the woman said. It wasn't a question, Lily nodded. "Yes." Played with considerable sensitivity. The woman's eyes, a piercing blue, studied Lily intently. "You've had formal training?" "My mother taught me. She studied at Shanghai Conservatory." Lily's hands rested lightly on the keys. "I had lessons until I was 18. And then?" The question was direct, almost intrusive. Normally, Lily would have deflected, changed the subject, or given a vague answer. But something about this woman demanded honesty. "My father died. We couldn't afford lessons anymore. Or college." The words came out matter-of-factly, without self-pity. Life changed direction. The woman nodded slowly, as if confirming something to herself. "I'm Vivian Howard." The name hit Lily like a physical shock. Vivian Howard, conductor of the New York Philharmonic, legendary for her interpretations of Mahler and Shostakovich. A woman whose recordings Lily had listened to countless times, whose career she had followed from afar. "I know who you are," Lily said quietly, hoping her face didn't betray her awe. "I've seen you conduct, have you?" Vivian raised an eyebrow. "When?" 3 years ago. "Tchaikovsky's Fifth at Lincoln Center." Lily remembered saving for months to afford the cheapest seat in the house, high up in the balcony. It was magnificent. Vivian's expression softened slightly. "Do you know Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor?" Lily's heart quickened. The piece was notoriously difficult, technically challenging and emotionally complex. She had worked on it for years, but never felt she'd truly mastered it. "I do," she admitted, "but it's not perfect." "Music isn't about perfection. It's about truth." Vivian gestured toward the keys. "Would you play it for me?" The request felt monumental. Playing background music while people ate and chatted was one thing. Playing directly for Vivian Howard, having her full critical attention, was entirely another. Lily's mouth went dry again. Across the room, she caught Rosa's eye. The manager gave her an encouraging nod, clearly recognizing the importance of the moment even if she didn't know who Vivian was. Lily took a deep breath. "I'll try." As she positioned her hands, she noticed something strange happening. The ambient noise of the restaurant was diminishing. Conversations paused. Silverware stilled against plates. People were turning to watch. For a moment, panic fluttered in her chest. Then she closed her eyes and began to play. The opening of the ballade was deceptively simple. a gentle, questioning melody that soon gave way to mounting complexity. Lily surrendered herself to the music, letting the years of practice guide her fingers through the intricate passages. The piece told a story, beginning in calm reflection, building to turbulent emotion, and ending in passionate drama. Her world narrowed to the piano, to the feeling of the keys beneath her fingers, to the sound filling the now silent restaurant. This was the piece she'd played the night her mother died, alone in the apartment with tears streaming down her face. It was the piece she returned to when doubting her choices, when wondering about roads not taken. When the final thunderous chords faded, Lily opened her eyes. The restaurant remained utterly silent. Then, like a breaking wave, applause erupted. Not polite dinner applause, but the genuine appreciation of people who understood what they had just witnessed. Several guests rose to their feet. Vivian Howard's face registered something Lily couldn't quite name. Surprise, perhaps, or recognition. "Where do you work?" Vivian asked when the applause subsided. Lily gestured vaguely around the restaurant. "Here. As the pianist? As a waitress." The words felt strange to say in Rosa's borrowed dress, with the piano still warm beneath her fingers. "This is just temporary." Vivian's expression changed to one of disbelief. "A waitress?" She repeated the word as if testing its validity. "How long?" 6 years. Someone called Vivian's name from across the room. She turned briefly, acknowledging them with a raised hand, then returned her attention to Lily. "What's your name?" "Lily. Lily Chen." "Well, Lily Chen," Vivian said, reaching into her purse and extracting a business card. "I think you and I should talk. Call my office tomorrow." Before Lily could respond, Vivian was walking away, drawn into conversation with an elderly man Lily recognized as a prominent Broadway producer. The business card sat on the piano like a talisman, its embossed lettering catching the light. Lily stared at it, unable to quite believe what had just happened. Her hands were trembling slightly. From exertion or emotion, she couldn't tell. Was that Vivian Howard? A man's voice broke into her thoughts. He stood near the piano, glass of wine in hand, watching her with interest. "I'm Thomas Wright, by the way." "I'm with the Symphony Board," Lily nodded, still dazed. "Yes, it was. Impressive." "She doesn't give out her card to just anyone." He smiled. "Would you play something else for us? Perhaps something by Liszt?" And so it continued. Lily played for another hour. Liszt, more Chopin, some Debussy. People came to the piano between pieces to make requests or simply to watch her hands move across the keys. A few asked where they could hear her play regularly, seeming confused when she had no answer. Rosa appeared occasionally, refreshing her water, whispering encouraging words. Jorge peeked out from the kitchen, giving her a thumbs up when their eyes met. Even Mr. Green, the restaurant owner, stopped by the piano, his face a mixture of surprise and calculation. "You've been holding out on us, Ms. Chen," he said. "We might need to discuss a change in your position here." As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Lily remained at the piano, playing softer, more reflective pieces. Her body ached from the unusual posture and concentration, but it was a good ache, like the satisfying tiredness after meaningful work. A young woman approached, the last of the departing guests. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said shyly. "I'm a piano student at Juilliard, and hearing you tonight, it reminded me why I love music." The simple words touched Lily deeply. "Thank you for listening," she replied. When the restaurant finally emptied, Lily sat alone at the piano. The staff was busy cleaning up, resetting tables, preparing for tomorrow. She played a final piece just for herself, a simple lullaby her mother had taught her when she was very small. Rosa appeared at her side, carrying 2 glasses of champagne. "I'd say this calls for a celebration." She handed one to Lily. "You were amazing." "I can't believe any of this happened," Lily said, taking the glass. "It feels like a dream." "Not a dream." Rosa clinked her glass against Lily's. Just the moment when everyone else finally saw what was always there. Lily looked down at Vivian Howard's business card, still sitting on the piano where she'd left it. Tomorrow she would call the number. Tomorrow she would find out what the conductor wanted to discuss. Tomorrow, perhaps her life would change again, but tonight, she savored the feeling of being truly seen. Not as the invisible waitress, but as the musician she had always been. For the first time in years, the weight of abandoned dreams felt lighter, as if some long-held breath had finally been released. "Thank you," Lily said to Rosa, "for giving me this chance." Rosa smiled. "Thank yourself. You're the one who spoke up." And that, Lily realized, made all the difference. After years of silence, she had finally found her voice. Not just through music, but through the courage to claim her place at the piano, where she had always belonged. Lily woke the next morning with a strange, light feeling in her chest. For a moment, she couldn't place the source of this unfamiliar sensation. Then memories from the night before flooded back. The piano, the applause, Vivian Howard's business card now sitting on her bedside table. Hope. That was the feeling. Raw and fragile, but unmistakably there, she reached for her phone. It was nearly noon. She'd slept later than she had in years. 3 missed calls from her cousin Min, a text from Jorge asking how she was feeling, and an email from Rosa saying she didn't need to come in for her shift today. "Take some time," Rosa had written. "We can manage without you. Call Vivian." Outside her small apartment window, the city hummed with its usual midday energy. Sunlight filtered through the thin curtains, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. Lily sat up, hugging her knees to her chest. The events of the previous night seemed dreamlike in the harsh light of day. Had she really played for one of the most renowned conductors in the country? Had people really applauded for her? Vivian Howard's card lay flat on her bedside table, its elegant simplicity a contrast to the chipped laminate surface. Lily picked it up, running her thumb over the embossed lettering. "Vivian Howard, Music Director, New York Philharmonic," it read, followed by a phone number and email address. "Call my office tomorrow," Vivian had said. Tomorrow was now today. Lily's thumb hovered over her phone. What exactly was she expecting? A job offer? A chance to audition for something? Whatever it was, it frightened her almost as much as it excited her. The phone rang 3 times before a crisp voice answered. "Vivian Howard's office, this is Paul speaking. Hi, my name is Lily Chen. Vivian Howard asked me to call." Her voice lifted at the end, making it sound like a question. Ms. Chen. Yes, Vivian mentioned you'd be calling. One moment, please," the line went silent. Lily's heart pounded in her ears. She hadn't expected to speak directly to Vivian today. Maybe just to schedule something for the future. Lily. Vivian's voice was as direct over the phone as it had been in person. "I'm glad you called." "Thank you for asking me to," Lily replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'll be direct. Your performance last night was exceptional, particularly given the circumstances. How long has it been since you've played regularly?" The question caught Lily off guard. "I practice when I can, usually a few hours a week when I can afford studio time." "And before that?" "You mentioned training until you were 18. Yes, I was going to apply to music programs, but then my father died and..." She trailed off, not wanting to repeat the same sad story. "I understand." Vivian's tone softened slightly. "Life has a way of interrupting our plans, but talent like yours shouldn't be serving dinner. It should be serving music." Lily sat up straighter, her breath catching. "What are you suggesting?" "The Philharmonic Foundation has a scholarship program for exceptional talents who've faced financial barriers. It's competitive, but it provides full tuition to Juilliard's continuing education program, plus a stipend for living expenses during study." The room seemed to tilt slightly. "You want me to apply for a scholarship?" "I want you to audition for one," Vivian corrected. "Next Tuesday, 3 o'clock at Juilliard. The panel includes myself and 4 others from the foundation. Can you prepare 3 pieces? 1 classical, 1 romantic, and 1 contemporary." Lily's mind raced. 6 days to prepare for what might be the most important performance of her life. 6 days to practice pieces she hadn't played properly in years. She thought of her shifts at the restaurant, of her cramped apartment with the keyboard that couldn't compare to a real piano. I'd need to practice. A lot." It wasn't quite a yes or a no, of course you would, which is why I've arranged for you to have access to a practice room at Juilliard every day until then, 9 to 5 starting tomorrow. I've already spoken with your manager at the Montclair. She's very supportive." Lily felt a surge of gratitude toward Rosa, followed by a wave of panic. This was happening too fast. Yesterday she was a waitress. Today she was being offered a chance to become... What exactly? What if I'm not good enough? The question slipped out before she could stop it. That's for the panel to decide. Vivian's voice was firm but not unkind. but I wouldn't waste their time or mine if I didn't think you had something special. After the call ended, Lily sat motionless on her bed, phone still in hand. Outside, a siren wailed in the distance, then faded. The clock on her nightstand ticked steadily. Life continued as normal, even as hers seemed to be veering onto a new path. She needed to think, to process, and she needed to call her cousin Min, who had been like a sister since her mother passed away. Min answered on the first ring. "Finally. I've been calling you all morning." "Did you see?" "See what?" Lily asked, confused. "You're all over social media. Someone posted a video of you playing last night. It's got thousands of views already." Lily felt a cold shock run through her. "What? Who filmed me?" "I don't know, but it's amazing, Lily. People are going crazy over it." "Hold on, I'll send you the link." Moments later, Lily's phone buzzed with a text. She clicked the link with shaking fingers. The video had been taken from a table near the piano. It showed her playing the Chopin Ballade, her face in profile completely absorbed in the music. The quality wasn't perfect. Restaurant lighting never was, but the sound was clear enough. The video captured the final 3 minutes of the piece, including the dramatic conclusion and the restaurant's stunned silence before the applause. The caption read, "Waitress steps to the piano. When she performs, the elite crowd rises to applaud. Her name is Lily Chen, and she works at the Montclair in Manhattan. Incredible talent hiding in plain sight." Lily scrolled through the comments with growing disbelief. Why is she waiting tables with that kind of talent? This gave me chills. Pure emotion. I was there. Even better in person. The whole restaurant stopped to listen. Someone get this woman a recording contract. Over 8,000 views already and climbing. Lily closed the app, her hands trembling slightly. "Min, I don't know what to think about this." "Think that it's amazing." Min's voice bubbled with excitement. "This is like one of those viral talent discovery stories. You know, like that janitor who could sing opera. It's not that simple." Lily tried to explain about Vivian, the scholarship audition, the practice rooms at Juilliard. Even better. Min exclaimed when she finished. "Lily, do you realize what's happening? This is your second chance, the one you've deserved for years. Or it's just going to lead to disappointment." Lily voiced the fear lurking beneath her hope. "I haven't played seriously in years. Min, these scholarship students, they've been practicing 8 hours a day since they were kids. And you've been carrying heavy trays and dealing with rude customers. Which one shows more discipline, huh?" Min's tone turned serious. "Listen to me. Your mom would be telling you to grab this chance with both hands." The mention of her mother hit Lily hard. "I know. So you're going to do it, right? The audition?" Lily took a deep breath. "Yes, I'm going to try." The next morning, Lily stood outside the Juilliard School, gazing up at the modern glass building with a mixture of awe and trepidation. Students bustled past her, carrying instrument cases and sheet music, their conversations animated and filled with musical terminology she hadn't heard in years. She clutched the visitor's pass Vivian had arranged for her, feeling distinctly out of place in her jeans and simple sweater. The security guard checked her ID, then pointed her toward the practice rooms on the 3rd floor. "Room 312 is yours until Tuesday," he said. "The piano is a Steinway. Be nice to it." The elevator ride felt like a journey into another world, one she had once dreamed of belonging to. When she opened the door to room 312, her breath caught. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating a beautiful grand piano in the center of the space, unlike the rented practice room she was used to. This one had perfect acoustics, comfortable seating, and not a water stain in sight. Lily set down her bag of sheet music and approached the piano with reverence. She ran her fingers lightly over the keys without pressing them, feeling their smooth, cool surface. Then she sat on the bench, adjusted its height, and began to play. The sound that emerged was so rich, so resonant that tears sprang to her eyes. She had forgotten what it felt like to play an instrument of this quality, like having wings after years of walking. She practiced for hours, stopping only when her growling stomach reminded her she'd skipped lunch. The Juilliard cafeteria was buzzing with activity when she entered. She felt conspicuously older than most of the students, many of whom appeared to be in their late teens or early 20s. "You're her, aren't you?" a voice said as Lily paid for her sandwich. She turned to see a young woman with short hair and bright eyes watching her. "The waitress from the video, the one who played Chopin." Lily nodded, uncomfortable with being recognized. That's me. I'm Nancy, piano performance major. The young woman extended her hand. Your playing was beautiful. Raw but beautiful. Are you studying here now? No, I'm just practicing for something. Lily wasn't ready to explain about the scholarship audition. Nancy nodded toward an empty table. Want to join me? I'd love to hear your story. To Lily's surprise, she found herself agreeing. As they ate, she shared abbreviated versions of her background. Her mother's teaching, the derailed plans for music school, the years at the Montclair. And now Vivian Howard is personally mentoring you? Nancy's eyes widened. That's unreal. She's a legend, but she's also known for being incredibly selective about who she works with. She's not mentoring me, Lily corrected quickly. She just arranged for me to practice here. Nancy gave her a knowing look. Vivian Howard doesn't just do anything. If she's taken an interest in you, it's because she sees something special. The words echoed in Lily's mind as she returned to the practice room for the afternoon. Was there really something special in her playing? Or was this all a fleeting moment of attention that would soon fade? As evening approached, she gathered her things to leave. Tomorrow would be another day of intensive practice, another day of preparing for an audition that might change everything, or nothing at all. Walking out of Juilliard, she passed a poster for an upcoming Philharmonic performance under Vivian's direction. The featured soloist was a renowned pianist whose recordings Lily had listened to for years. That could be you someday, a small voice whispered inside her. For the first time in a very long time, Lily allowed herself to believe it might be possible. 6 months had passed since the night Lily stepped to the piano at the Montclair. 6 months of change so rapid and profound that sometimes she still woke up wondering if it had all been an elaborate dream. The day of the scholarship audition remained vivid in her memory. She had arrived at Juilliard 2 hours early, pacing the hallways, running through her pieces mentally. The practice rooms had become familiar territory after 5 days of intensive preparation, but the recital hall where the auditions were held felt intimidatingly large when empty. You look like you might be sick, Nancy had said, appearing beside her with 2 paper cups of tea. The young piano student had become something of a friend during Lily's practice sessions, offering technical advice and moral support. Drink this. It's ginger and honey. Lily had accepted the tea gratefully. What if I freeze up? What if I forget everything? You won't, Nancy had replied with the confidence of youth. The music is in you. It's been there all along. When the panel arrived, Vivian, Howard, 3 other distinguished-looking individuals in formal attire, and a younger woman who took notes, Lily felt her heart hammering against her ribs. She had chosen her pieces carefully: Mozart's Sonata in C major for the classical requirement, Chopin's Ballade No. 1 for the romantic, and Debussy's Reflets dans l'eau for the contemporary. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Chen, Vivian had said, her expression giving nothing away. Lily had taken a deep breath, positioned her hands over the keys of the concert grand, and began to play. Later, she would remember little of the actual performance. Not the mistakes she surely made, not the panel's expressions, not even the feeling of the keys beneath her fingers. What she did remember was the sensation of music flowing through her, as if she were not creating it but simply allowing it passage into the world. When she finished the Debussy, her final piece, there was a moment of silence. Then Vivian had stood up. Thank you, Ms. Chen. We'll be in touch within the week. The call came 2 days later. Lily had been back at the Montclair working her regular shift when her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She had stepped into the alley behind the restaurant to answer it. Ms. Chen, this is Paul from Vivian Howard's office. The scholarship committee has reached a decision. They'd like to offer you the full Philharmonic Foundation scholarship, effective immediately for the spring semester. The words had knocked the breath from her lungs. Really? Really, Paul had confirmed, a smile in his voice. Congratulations. Vivian was very impressed by your audition. She said to tell you it was technically imperfect but emotionally perfect, which coming from her is high praise indeed. Now 6 months later, Lily sat at the baby grand in the Montclair, but not as a waitress stealing moments at the piano. Tonight she was here as the featured performer, elegantly dressed in a simple black gown that she actually owned rather than borrowed. The restaurant had undergone changes too. After the video of Lily's impromptu performance went viral, Mr. Green had recognized a marketing opportunity. The Montclair now featured live classical piano every night, with Lily playing 3 evenings a week while she attended her intensive program at Juilliard. Her story had drawn new customers, people who came as much for the music as for the food. The arrangement had allowed her to reduce her waitressing to just 1 lunch shift per week, enough to maintain connections with her work family while focusing on her studies. The scholarship covered her tuition and provided a modest stipend, but New York remained an expensive city. Tonight was special, though. Tonight marked exactly 6 months since that first performance, and Mr. Green had organized a small celebration. Regular customers had been invited, along with Lily's teachers from Juilliard, Vivian Howard, and even a few members of the press who had followed Lily's story. Ready? Rosa appeared beside the piano, looking elegant in a dress Lily had never seen before. Their relationship had evolved from manager and employee to genuine friendship. "They're starting to arrive." Lily nodded, flexing her fingers. The calluses that had come from carrying heavy trays had been replaced by different ones, pianist's calluses, earned through hours of daily practice. "I can't believe how many people are coming," she said, glancing at the rapidly filling dining room. "Believe it," Rosa replied. "You've earned this, Lily. All of it." The evening progressed like a dream. Lily played a carefully curated program, beginning with pieces familiar to the regular customers before moving to more challenging works she'd mastered during her studies. Between sets, she mingled with guests, still somewhat uncomfortable with the attention but learning to accept it graciously. "Your progress has been remarkable," her Juilliard professor told her, clinking glasses in a toast. "Most students take years to develop the emotional depth you already possess. I had good life experience to draw from," Lily replied with a small smile. Across the room, she spotted Jorge, who had taken the night off from the kitchen to attend as a guest. He raised his glass to her, his face full of uncomplicated pride. Nearby, Tony chatted with a table of customers, occasionally glancing her way with what might have been respect. As she prepared for her final set, Lily noticed Vivian Howard entering the restaurant. The conductor rarely attended student events, making her presence tonight particularly meaningful. She was accompanied by an older Asian woman whom Lily didn't recognize at first. Then the woman turned, and Lily's heart nearly stopped. It was Mrs. Park, the owner of the practice studio in Queens where Lily had spent countless hours playing the old upright piano. The elderly Korean woman looked out of place in the upscale restaurant, but her eyes lit up when she spotted Lily. Vivian guided Mrs. Park to a table near the piano. "I hope you don't mind," she said to Lily. "When I learned where you used to practice, I wanted to meet the woman who kept your music alive all those years." Lily felt tears prickle at the corners of her eyes. "Of course I don't mind." Mrs. Park reached out to pat Lily's hand. "I always knew," she said simply. "Every time you played, I would stand outside the door and listen. I told my son, that girl will be famous one day." The simple words from the woman who had witnessed her private struggles touched Lily deeply. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." For her final piece of the evening, Lily had planned to play Rachmaninoff's Prelude in G minor, the piece that had first drawn serious attention that fateful night. But looking at Mrs. Park's weathered face, at Vivian's quiet expectation, at the room full of people who had come to support her journey, she changed her mind. Instead, she began to play a piece her mother had taught her, a Chinese folk melody, arranged for piano that spoke of perseverance, of bending but not breaking in the face of life's storms. It was not technically impressive like the Rachmaninoff, but it carried her heart in every note. When she finished, the room was silent for a long moment before erupting in applause. People rose to their feet, not just a few this time, but everyone. In their faces, Lily saw more than appreciation for a talented performer. She saw recognition of a shared human experience, the struggle, the persistence, the moments of beauty snatched from difficulty. Vivian approached the piano as the applause continued. "You've come far in 6 months," she said. But this is just the beginning. What comes next? Lily asked. Your recital at Juilliard next month, then summer masterclasses. In the fall, if you continue at this pace, we should discuss competition opportunities. Vivian's eyes held a warmth that belied her formal tone. The path is open before you, Lily. How far you go is up to you now. Later that night, after the guests had departed and the restaurant staff was cleaning up, Lily remained at the piano. The room felt different, empty, more like it had the night she'd first played here when everything changed. Rosa joined her, sitting on the bench beside her. Penny, for your thoughts? I was thinking about all the nights I served drinks in this room, Lily replied. All the times I felt invisible, all the times I wondered if I'd made the wrong choices. And now I know there are no wrong paths, just different ones. Lily ran her fee.